Today I want to show you how to design a beautiful raised bed garden for yourself, just like a pro would, because I'm a pro. I've designed hundreds of raised bed kitchen gardens for my clients, and I teach students all over the world to design gardens for themselves. Today I want to make the system very easy for you by showing you my 5 top beautiful raised bed garden designs. But hold on a second, because Ponyo really wants to be part of this video. Come here. Okay, are you ready? Ponyo's here. He wants to be sure that he gets in on this too. So I'm going to be pulling this information from my book, Kitchen Garden Revival. This came out in 2020. I wrote this book based on all the kitchen gardens that I designed for my clients. And I realized after I had done, over 100, that there was a science to it, that it wasn't like each and every time I was going into a new space that I was creating a completely unique, one-of-a-kind, never seen before garden design. That over time, I started to see a pattern, right? That certain spaces needed certain garden designs, and certain designs fit best in certain spaces. And so I put them into categories, and I kind of did this without realizing it. And then when it came time to write my book, Kitchen Garden Revival, I was like, oh, these are categories that almost everyone can use. And so I laid this out in the book in chapter 1, I think, which is called Site, S-I-T-E. And it's all about figuring out the site for your kitchen garden. So there are 5 designs in here. And the neat thing is, once you get these 5 garden designs kind of in your brain, then every space you see could be just that one design, or could be a combination of the designs together. And you're going to start to see, now that you learn these 5 designs here today, as you start to look online and follow other gardeners and watch other gardeners, you'll start to see these different designs either used individually or coupled together with each other to create all kinds of unique and beautiful garden spaces. And so if you want your garden to look like a pro designed it, but you need to design it, then this is the video for you. So I'm going to take each one and I'm going to show you on a piece of paper how I would make it a reality, right? So we're going to start with what I call the border garden. And the border garden is simply that. It is a garden that is on the border of your landscape or lawn. Now, back in the day, or even now, probably most of the vegetable gardens you've seen, it's just like one box sitting in the middle of the yard. You know what I'm talking about? It's that one awkward garden. I actually say this in my book, that we should have no more awkward gardens. And that's where this garden's just like out there in the grass all by itself with nothing around it. And it's just like self-conscious, because it doesn't really belong to the landscape. So I've been there. Have you been there? If you've ever created a garden like that, that's not how the pros do it. So you want to have a garden that feels like it belongs to the space. So a border garden is perfect for you if you've got a smaller space, or if you just want to start small. You don't want to start with a really big garden, then a border garden is definitely going to be the best option for you. A border garden is also great if you want to have other things in your landscape besides just a garden. You'll have to see Ponyo's face, though, I have to say. I mean, is he the cutest or what? So a border garden, I've also often used those with clients where they want to keep their lawn for their kids to play in, or they have a swimming pool, or they want to have outdoor seating. For any reason they want to use their landscape for other reasons besides the garden, then a border garden is something you can just slide, and put into smaller spaces. So here in this book, I've got one where we made an L-shaped border garden so that they could have outdoor seating. We have another where there's 2 beds around the edge of a patio, and then another where we put beds on both sides of an alley. So a border garden is just a great way to get started in the garden, or to add more garden space to your existing gardens that you already have. So I did a little drawing here. I'm trying to keep it simple for you. So I've just got a ruler. I'm using the centimeter measurements and measuring out some different spaces. So I'm gonna show you what kinds of garden spaces would work depending on the measurements and how much room you're working with. So for this particular one, this is somewhat of a rectangular space, And let's say that we have what do we want to have in this space? Let's say that we have a driveway, okay? So you've got a driveway that's going down here or right through the middle of it. And there's a driveway. Let's say you've got a door or something like that right here. And so the border garden is simply going to fit right on this side of the driveway. So we're going to use the driveway as our line. You don't really have to add steel edging or anything like that if you don't want to. You can just use the edge of the driveway, which is wonderful. And then you're just going to fit the garden right on the inside. Let's say there's a fence here. So I'm just going to draw some lines to signify the fact that there's a fence. And then we're going to just place the border garden right inside. Now we could make 2 of them. We can make one really thin one, however we wanted to do it. I'm going to give a 1-foot walkway. Actually, you really don't have to do that because you've got the driveway, right? So you could actually just stand on the driveway to garden, but you could add a 1-foot little place for your feet to stand. And then I'm going to put 1 bed here, give a little space for like a little bench or a pot, and 1 bed here, right? So I've drawn in 2 beds here on the border. I've got a little walkway. You can put a little pot right here, maybe like a citrus tree or a bay laurel, something like that. And then I can do some panel trellises. I'm not an artist, I'm a designer. There's a difference, okay? So I'm drawing some panel trellises in here. And there we go. So I took a very plain space, right? We have this driveway. We're going to have our cars coming down this driveway. I'm going to put these words in here, driveway. And now I took something that was very plain. We just had driveway and grass. And now we've got this nice little walkway for you to step on. And then we've got 2 border gardens separated by a little nice pot with, a big herb or a tree or something in there. And then panel trellises on either side. And there you go. That is the border garden. So you've taken a fairly unused space, something that you don't really enjoy. It's just kind of sitting there. And boom, you've got a designer, beautiful garden called the border garden. So that, my friend, is my first favorite design. It actually quickly became our most popular design to sell, I think, because 1, it's very affordable. 2, it fits in almost any space. 3, it is a perfect way to get started in the garden. And it makes you feel like you're starting to garden, but you're not like overcommitting. You know what I mean? All right, here is the second one. This one is called the twin garden. And I guess you can probably guess what I mean by this. So it's 2 beds and they're set up right next to one another. These can stand alone in the yard. So I don't like 1 bed just sitting all by itself in the yard. That's going to look awkward. 2 beds though together in the yard, that's going to look like magic. So with a twin garden, you've got 2 beds that are literally twins. They look exactly like each other. They're mirrors of one another. And when you put them together in a landscape, it just brings the whole thing together. So if you follow my work at all online, you'll find one of the most used designs is the twin garden. 2 beds and arch trellises. It's just so simple, so doable. In fact, one of my garden consultants, when they first started working with me, I swear every single garden they did was a twin garden with an arch trellis. It just became like their signature thing. They just did it again and again. So let me show you how you can put a twin garden into your space. So generally, twin gardens are going to work best in a rectangular space. You can either go long with it, where the beds go longer, or you can let the beds be wider. I'll show you both options. Okay, so first would be if you wanted to do, what I mean is the twins could run long ways, right? Or they can run on the short way. So for this instance, let's say this is out in the middle of the yard and we've got this rectangular space. So I could do 2 beds that are, say, about 4 feet wide and about 6 feet long. I'm going to give myself a pathway in between. So I've got a path right in the middle. I've got paths on either side. They should be equal. And then both these beds are like 4 feet wide and 8 feet long. Then I'm going to connect these with 2 arch trellises. just like that. So now that I've done that, I now have this much more complete vision of a garden, right? Instead of just one bed all by itself, I've got this nice entry point. You're going to have this very magical feeling going into the garden. You look to both sides. You've got plants on both sides. You're going to really feel like you're inside of a garden space, which the word garden actually means enclosure. And so when you come into a twin garden versus just this one awkward garden all by itself, totally different feeling. So you've got all this room to walk and tend around the garden. You've got these two beds that mirror one another and the arch trellis to tie it together. So now let me show you, I'm just going to extend this and I'm going to show you how you could do this going the long way. So in this case, if you wanted to run the longer part of the rectangle, then you're going to have a shorter path on the outside, come to the center here. These will probably be probably the same size beds, maybe a little bit smaller pathways. You're going to have smaller pathways in between the beds, but just like that. So that way you've got the long side is running this way and the short side is running the other way. Just like that, two arch trellises. You can add some more obelisk trellises here on the ends so you can do some more vertical growing. And ta-da, that is the twin garden. So that is my second favorite design to do for a kitchen garden space. Works great for rectangular spaces and really pulls the design together. Really is going to make your garden feel like it was designed by a pro, because it was, because you're just taking my design and making it work for your own space. Moving on to design number 3 is the garden trio. Can you see how we're progressing here? Like 1, 2, 3. Yes, I know it's very complicated. So a garden trio is 3 beds, just like what it sounds like. And this is going to allow you to fit as many beds as possible into a space. And I like to say, you know, if you're working with 3s, then any set of 3 counts. And so my Chicago garden was actually 6 beds. And so I said it's basically like, you know, a trio doubled, essentially. So trios work for really long spaces, really rectangular spaces where the long side is really long. And trios also work for circular spaces or spaces that have somewhat of a curve to them. So I'll show you this cool design that I did, my favorite design, and it was in a circular space. So I don't have like the perfect lineup for a circle, and this is, you would have to build with either steel beds or you'd have to build it with stone. So I'll show this one to you next. I'll do the easier one first. So this is actually a square space, 22 by 22. Let me actually do a skinnier space. That's what we need for our rectangle. So for the rectangle, you want to have like a long space, but this space shouldn't be that wide for you to do your trio. And so the trio can be, you know, you can make it any way you want in terms of how you divide up the beds, but one way you could do it is to have like one bed running this way, and then you could have another bed right here, and then you could do a different size bed right there in the middle. And that one in the middle you could use, you know, you could have like panel trellises down the center, or you could have big obelisks down the center like that. You could still do arch trellises in between these beds, and then you end up with this really neat design of 3 gardens all together, and it makes the use, you know, it uses up this rectangular space really well. Now let me show you how I did mine in Chicago. I had a very long space. It ran the whole length of the front of my house, but it wasn't very wide because my yard sloped. So it was actually just 10 feet wide, but it was 30 feet long. So it was 3 times the length. So what I did is like on this side was my garage and my home. So I just ran 3 beds, like equidistant down the side. And honestly, the way this happened is I did 3, And then I was like, oh, this is so cool. I want to do 3 more. And so this as a standalone, would be a garden trio, but then I basically just imitated it again. And this is what I mean by take these core designs, these 5 designs, and then you can just combine them. It's like Lego pieces, right? So all it takes is a few pieces and you can fit them all together to make all kinds of wonderful things. So that's what you can do with this trio. I basically have 2 trios that turned into a really fun and famous garden. I think it's famous anyway. This is that garden, and you'll see it throughout my book, Kitchen Garden Revival. Okay, now let's talk about my fancy circle that I did. And this one was done with stone. This is in the book as well. And what we did is just 3 arcs. And so you build it kind of like this, where it's 3 even pieces. So like that, it was crazy to measure out, but basically you do it so that the walkways stay equal. And then each of the pieces, it almost looks like a lifesaver, like this. But this was the way that we did the trio. So it was 3 portions to make a circle. And then on the inside, we planted a tree right in the middle. And we did 3 obelisk trellises all around the beds, just like that. So this is probably one of my favorite designs I've gotten to do. I did this one way back in 2016, and it turned out so magical. I love this garden. I sent my husband a text after I made this garden, and I was like, I just made the most beautiful thing ever. Or I think I said, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever made in my life. And he was like, what about our children? I was like, oh, never mind. All right, so those are the top 3, the easiest ones to do. You can do them, you can do the border garden in almost any space. Twin garden works in lots of small spaces and rectangular spaces. And then the garden trio works when you have a really long space. So now we'll move to my most standard, most loved, I would say, design ever. The most featured design as well, and that is the 4 Garden Classic. Now, why is it called the Classic? Because I don't know, I think that like everybody, when you think of a traditional garden, you often think of 4. It's just like a standard kind of normal in vegetable gardens. So I call it the 4 Garden Classic. It is classic. It's going to feel so just, I don't know. It's going to feel so good when you walk into your 4 Garden Classic. They are my favorite gardens to make. You get to grow so much food in them, and it's just really a fun garden to be in. So this one is, I like to make these in a square space. So a square or a rectangular space. I'll do this one in a rectangular space, but actually I think it's going to be too long. You don't want it to be too long of a space. I mean, you can, but you'll end up with really long beds. I generally like to use 4x8 beds or 4x10 beds in a 4 Garden Classic, and every bed is equal in size. So that's part of the 4 Garden Classic. I'll show you the smallest one, which is just going to be 4 4x4s. And that one is one of the, the simplest ones to fit into a space. It turns out really, really pretty and very classic. I think very classy, and you can grow a ton in the space. So just 4 4x4s. If you look at the space you need, it's just like 3 feet for your pathway, 8 is 11, and then you could have 1 on either side. So you really only need about 13 feet on each end. So a 13 by 13 space, and you could have a 4 Garden Classic. You can put obelisk trellises in the middle, or you could do this with arch trellises as well. So that's a 4x4 4 Garden Classic. Now the 4x8 is going to obviously be longer rather than square. So you'll have 2 longer beds like this. And these, I think, are just prime candidates for my arch trellises because you've just got so much more of an entryway, right? So you could have, my pen is dying on me. So you could have 2 arch trellises at the front, 2 back here, and then you can even add in, I like to add in obelisk trellises on the sides. That way I get a ton of vertical growing space. So that's a 4x8, and this could be running either direction, right? So you could have this where you run the trellises this way, or you could have this where you run the trellises going in this direction. So both work. So those are my top 4. I've got one more to show you. This is the mother of all garden designs. And you are going to, if you're like me, you're going to want to do this one. This is what I call the formal potager. And I said it's so fancy that we had to call in the French language to describe it. Potager is just French for kitchen garden. And the potager uses L-shaped beds. So these are going to be a little bit more complicated to build. You can piece them together with 2 beds that are smaller. But basically you make these L-shaped beds that create these corners of the garden, and then you build this really cool interior where you're going to walk inside and you're just going to feel like you're hiding from life, literally. That's what I like to do. So a formal potager needs to have at least 25 feet across and probably more, and I'll show you what this looks like when you draw it out. So I'm going to change pens. And we're going to go long. You usually want one side to be longer, but it doesn't have to be. It could be where both sides are equidistant, but you need it to be long enough for you to get down the first side, the short side of the L, have enough where you come in and then you go down again, right? So if the bed can't really be like 4 feet long, otherwise, you don't finish the L before you get to the other side. So this is what it looks like in terms of drawing it out. And you just make all the L's equidistant and equal in size. So generally speaking, this space is going to be, usually the spaces that I build these for, the minimum up here is something like, so you've got like 8 feet here, 8 feet here, and then 3 to 5 feet here. So the minimum here is going to be about 25 feet wide. And then the minimum here, usually if you're going longer, is going to be something like 35 feet long. But you could make this 8 by 8, and then you would have, you could have a 25 by 25 space. I love branching these or connecting these with arch trellises. You can do it on all 4 entrances if you want to. Super magical, but you could at least just put it on the 2 where you're going to be entering. Then you can add obelisk trellises in the corners like this. And then you've got all this interior space, so you can actually add some of our other designs, right? We have a couple of gardens we've done this with where we actually do a 4-garden classic inside of the formal potager. I mean, is that extra or what? I didn't quite center this perfectly, but you literally could do a new design inside of here. You could do a garden trio, you can do a 4-garden classic, you can do 2 and make a twin, or you could just have one big bed in the middle, or you could have a seating area. The possibilities are literally endless. So let me show you one other way you could do this. All right, so let's review, while I draw this last one out, let's review my 5 favorite raised bed garden designs. So first is the border garden. That's going to work best for you if you are in a smaller space, or you want to start small, or you just want to squeeze in a little bit more garden and make the most of your space. That's going to be your border garden. Next is the twin garden. That's going to work best if you're fitting that into a rectangular space and you don't want to have that one awkward garden, so you're going to twin it up. Next is a trio. That's going to work great for a really long space. You can fit 3 beds together, or if you're working in a space that's more circular. The 4-garden classic is going to be perfect for a square or a rectangular space. You can make it as long or as tight as you want it to be. Great candidate to use those arch trellises, and just a wonderful classic design. And then finally, formal potager. This is if you want to go all in. You want your garden to be your getaway. You want this to be the place that you just go and hide and hang out and host parties and have like the time of your life. So here's an example. I did not draw it perfectly, but here's an example of a formal potager with a garden trio right down the center. I just designed a garden like this actually a few months ago. I put a panel trellis here down the center so we can grow both ways. And then I did some obelisks like this. So you end up, when you're walking in, you can't see around to the other side of the garden. It's so fantastic. So, so this is the formal potager. And then we've got all the other options as well, from the 4-garden classic to the garden trio, the twin garden, and the border garden 2. 5 garden designs, and then the possibilities are endless. You can make almost any garden that you want from these 5 garden designs. So take it from me, I have put together and designed hundreds of kitchen gardens. It matters what it looks like. I know that we're growing a garden to get food. I know that there's so many practical reasons to have a garden, but when it comes down to it, if you think your garden is beautiful, you're going to go out there a lot more. And if you design it to be beautiful from the beginning, it's going to be so much more beautiful in the end. So taking some time right now to design your garden the way you want, to act like a pro, and to use 1 or 2 or 3 of these designs inside the garden that you're planning is going to make a world of difference in the garden that you get to enjoy today and for many years to come. I think that's it. So my 5 garden designs, tell me in the comments which one is your favorite. Which one are you going to try out in your own garden space? And then you gotta come show me, okay? So come tag me on TikTok or Instagram. Show me the garden that you create this year. And we have tons of resources to help you at Gardenary.com. So we have this calendar. Cool thing, all you have to do is put in 2 dates that you know about your town or city, and then we are going to tell you every other date you need to know to plant for this year. So it's at Gardenary.com/calendar. You can grab that resource. And then we have all kinds of other resources, including my books, Kitchen Garden Revival. This is how to make a garden, leaves, roots, and fruit. This is what to plant in the garden. Plus we have upcoming live workshops that you can check out at Gardenary.com. My name is Nicole Burke, and I am in love with the garden, and I truly believe that the garden is for everybody. There's a garden that is made for you, and hopefully today you got one step closer to designing one that you love so much you literally cannot handle not being in the garden. I'm about to go out to mine, I think. All right, thanks for watching. I will see you next time, and yeah, send me your garden design. I can't wait to see what you make.